I mean, the Truman Show was another moment where, I had to kind of deal with, well, you're not allowed to do that. You've presented yourself one way,
Yeah.
and it's a tough thing to convince people that there's something more, or that they might want to see something different. But I've always believed, all the way along, I've believed that it was about a spark.
Right.
It was about who you are as a person. It's about your soul.
Yeah.
It's about not necessarily. I mean, you do what you do so well, but there is something about you that is attractive to people in a way that they want to sit and watch you for an hour and listen to you and listen to your insights. But it's about you and who you are. What is it worth? What is it worth? And that's what I've come to so many times in my career, in my life, is that I've said the safe road is going to pay off. There are many payoffs to it, but I can't be there and have my soul be on a completely different track. It's always worth losing to me.
It is.
It's always worth risking. And if this other side of me is not a popular one in the scheme of things as far as movie tickets go, then you know what? I'll find a way to sneak it in there. I'll make a plan. I will show myself. I will find a way, and even if I'm not as popular, I will live in that area. I will expand myself. I mean, I started out with many desires as far as this business goes, and I've so surpassed all of them that it's not as meaningful to me anymore. I really love the work itself. I've examined myself on several occasions. Why am I really doing this? Am I doing this because I want to be famous? And I think there was an element to that when I started out.
Sure.
I wanted to be a rainmaker. Yeah. We should talk about that a little further.
Well, what does that mean?
That means I think I wasn't necessarily seen as much or as intently as I wanted to be when I was a kid. I had a job, at least in my own mind, and that was to make my mother feel better. She was kind of very ill in many ways, and so it was to make her feel better. And I think ultimately I imitated my father. He was a very funny guy, but also I felt some need, and maybe I don't know whether they created it or I created it, but I felt a need to make them feel that their life was worthwhile, that they did something special just by the very fact that they brought me into the world. Yeah. So from a very young age, I wanted to convince them that I was a miracle. And then I wanted to convince the world that I was a miracle. and now I want to convince the world that I'm just like them.
So you went from convincing first you're a miracle and then that you are just like them.
Yes.
And how does that play out today in terms of convincing the world you are just like them, that you are?
Well, what I'm finding is an interesting thing, because I have a lot of people asking me, well, are you afraid that people won't accept you? And I know that in my life, and at least in my, the circle of people I know and know my friends that know my work, it seems like, and even people I talk to, like you, it seems like people are almost waiting for it, that they've suspected that there's another level to me, and they're kind of intrigued and interested in what that might be. It's that, and it's an addiction. Honestly, I mean, I'd love
an addiction to just knowing yourself.
Yeah, an addiction to trying to figure out, and maybe this is an impossible task, but everybody's looking for bliss, in some way or another. And I think I've come to the realization lately that that bliss comes in waves, and everybody gets a certain amount of it.
Yeah.
But in between, it's just hard work being in this body.
And that it is the unwise person to expect bliss will be there all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you look for it. You look for it, and you wonder why you're off the beam all the time, or whatever. So I'm constantly examining myself. I probably do it too much. I've always overthought everything.
I mean, you're reading Emerson, and you read.
Right. Which is like the big thing for me, in life right now is the excerpt from Compensation, the essay he did on compensation, where it talks about that man would see the mermaid's head but not the dragon's tail. Yeah. And this is something that happens over and over and over in my life, in relationships, and in choices that I make professionally. A lot of times you just don't want to believe in the bad. But the bad is there. You know, the negativity is there, or the obvious drawback to the situation is there, but you just go, I want.
Yeah.
And that comes down to the I will be done and everything biblical. It's, you know, it's, so I'm always struggling with these concepts. My desire is my only problem in this world.
Your desire?
Yes.
To do, your appetite?
My appetite, yeah, absolutely, yeah. To prove everything and to be everything.
But you...
It's our intention. Our intention is everything. Nothing happens on this planet without it. Not one single thing has ever been accomplished without intention. So I started thinking about my life, and I started thinking about this conference and what we're about, and I looked back and I thought, well, I was two people my whole life. I was in the living room entertaining people, being a monkey, you know, doing my thing for the company and trying to relieve my mother, who was suffering. She had rheumatoid arthritis and phlebitis and everything under the sun that was nagging at her, and she was depressed. And I wanted her to be free. And I wanted her to realize that her life was worth something because she gave birth to someone who was worth something. And then I would go into my room and I would sit with a legal pad. I was a little kid. And I would sit there and I would try to figure out what it meant, what it was all about. Why are we here? What is this? And one day I read something from Buddha that said that all spirituality is about relieving suffering. And I suddenly realized that's what I'm doing in the other room. and I'm aligned. You know, my purpose is aligned with this. So I felt incredibly lucky. I lose sight of that all the time. I get caught up in different concerns, ego concerns. But I'm so lucky to be a part of this community and to do something that is of value. And I really cherish that. And we are all one thing. It really is true. Can I speak to the person in the last row, in the very last seat against the wall? Is there someone back there that can say hello? What's your name? Andrea, are you aware that, do you have the distinct, palpable feeling that your intention created this evening, as well as Melissa's? Do you understand that all of this entire event is happening inside you? Well, just try to feel it for a second, because it's a trip, man. Some people go to the Super Bowl. I am the Super Bowl, man. I swear. My friends are all going, did you see that play? That was great. I'm like, yeah, but the energy coming out of me right now, man, is unbelievable. I'm just sitting there. I'm the stadium. I'm the vendors outside. I'm the crack dealer on the corner. I'm everything, man. There's no end to it, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun. So I hope you can feel that, and I hope you understand that you are one of the creators of this evening, that your intentions and your desires created this evening as well. And then I hope you are able to ask yourself, why did I get such a crappy seat? And be okay with it. I mean, you're in the last row, in the last seat. And yet you created this. And that's gotta be, it's a really selfless thing to do.
So understand, based on some things that I read about you, you know, that in the end, it's really a lot about self-respect.
Yes, yeah.
It is, because you know yourself.
Yeah.
And it is...
Well, yeah, and self-respect is certainly one of the major problems in the world. Self-esteem is the reason for most ills. And, you know, desiring what we don't have. I mean...
Appleton is me, or I am Peter Appleton. How did you mean that?
Well, in the respect that he has this yearning that that is more important to him. Again, false gods.
Right.
When you put something so in the forefront of your life, some desire in the forefront of your life, that everything else starts to suffer. I understand that. I understand that because I've gone that way and had to pull myself back or whatever. But it's the yearning that is can be something very positive. It can create wonderful things. But when it makes you negate your life and the people in your life, it becomes, or again, like when it makes you bear false witness, and sell somebody out. It's just not worth having. That yearning is the tough part. The yearning to kind of have that, but not make it completely consume you.
And that would be the selling out of his friends.
Selling out of his friends,
who were not guilty of anything and
he's
who he
living
didn't
in
even know.
He's living in a place of fear of loss.
Right.
And that's always a dangerous character. The guy who's afraid of loss is a dangerous guy, because he's the guy in Hollywood that stabs you in the back or, turns on somebody or whatever. Trying to protect
If
this
you know
dream.
If you know a man's fear, then you can conquer him, some say.
Truly. I mean, that's what the Blacklist era was about. Somebody, McCarthy, sat back and said, my gosh, what a wonderful fear to take advantage of, and to bring myself to power through it. You know what? I believe in the universe. I believe in the Horn of Plenty. I believe in the cornucopia. So I'm not afraid of Tom Cruise and what his movies do, and I can enjoy it, and I can enjoy Russell Crowe, and because there is so much in the universe, we all, can feed from it, and we all, there's enough for everybody.
Is that where you are in your head at this
absolutely.
Christmas season? They've got Russell Crowe has a movie out, Tom Cruise has a movie out. You're saying there's enough. I'm perfectly happy with what
absolutely
Jim has earned.
I've been given so much. I mean, I would be a green boar at the trough of life, if I question
If you wanted it all.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I sit down with friends of mine who are in the acting profession, and they say, these are really good actors, and they say, man, no one's really getting the chance to do what you're getting to do. I mean, it's quite an arc that's going on here.
To have your chance at bat time and time again.
I feel so lucky to have that.
But you had to bring something, otherwise they would not continue to give you the chance, and you obviously recognize that.
You have to allow yourself to be seen. That's the risk. The risk is, especially for somebody who's comedic, who has that weapon at his disposal.
Just to go off into a rift.
To risk being seen is the toughest thing in the world. We're all very shy people, people who do comedy, we're shy, and the emotion is right there on the surface. If you pricked me with a pin, I would fly around the room, so that's the risk, is that you are showing them yourself, your true, authentic self, and the chances of being rejected are much more important, much more terrifying. My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. That peace that we're after lies somewhere beyond personality. As far as I can tell, it's just about letting the universe know what you want and working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass. And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, I really don't know if that's true. I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun. Like many of you,
I was concerned about going out into the world and doing something bigger than myself, until someone smarter than myself made me realize that there is nothing bigger than myself. You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world. And after you walk through those doors today, you will only ever have two choices: love or fear. Choose love, and don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here, in the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying, I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. Please. I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Yeah, I would visualize,
This is when you were broke and poor.
Right, having directors interested in me and people that I respected saying, you know, I like your work or whatever that is. And I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever.
This was in like 1987, 85?
Yeah. And I had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things, and they're out there. I just don't have a hold of them yet, but they're out there. I wrote myself a check for $10 million. For acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe, and I dated it Thanksgiving 1995, and I put it in my wallet and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff, but then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on, I think it was Dumb and Dumber.
It's all a risk, but yeah, no, going on stage would be wonderful. I used to, you know, I did 15 years in the comedy clubs before I really started acting.
Well, one-on-one, stand-up.
Which is a PhD of some kind.
Well, it's a PhD of being able to relate to an audience, for sure.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, and that's
handling drunks. This is the thing. It's like, God, you better own it, you know? Whatever it is, you better own it.
I know.
I have this need for stuff. I'm always like afraid almost that, you know, I like say prayers, you know, make sure, you know, that I still have something to do here because
well,
you know, I really believe in the idea that if you don't have something to do here, you go.
Well, what's interesting, you said something about your parents that just fascinated me. At a certain point, they were just waiting for the end.
Yeah, and absolutely lovely people.
Right.
But kind of lost heart, you know. My father lost his job, and that hurt him a lot.
Attrition of life had taken its toll.
Yes, absolutely. And I think at a certain point they weren't enjoying it anymore. They weren't. They were just kind of waiting around. And I saw that early on, and I said, no, I can't have that. I have to break that cycle. You know. 'Cause I'm fascinated with that myself, and I'm wary of it myself. About my motivations, about my allegiances, about what I'm expressing in the world, you know, just my day-to-day, you know, contact with people. The idea that, you know, if people come up to me and say, I love you, you know, I try extra hard to give them energy, you know, to make it something that isn't about me. It's about them and this moment, or whatever it is. You know, I'm constantly, you know, trying to figure out where I'm at and whether I'm corrupting myself or not, or I'm probably just, you know, really too much about this, but it weighs heavy on me a lot. I believe in manifestation. I believe in, you know, putting a rocket of desire out into the universe, and you get it when you believe it. You get it when you believe you have it, and that's the key. Is like people still, they sit around going, when's it going to come, 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 And that's the wrong way. You're facing the wrong way, you're facing away from it. You have to go, it's here, it's here, it's here. I used to open my arms. I used to sit up there, you know, and open my arms and imagine a giant funnel of gifts coming
would come right into
from the
you.
universe.
Yes.
Honest to God, you could, you know, cut to me there. I'm like this, and if nothing else, it made me feel more positive about where I was. I drove down from Mulholland Drive every night, you know, that I went up there, feeling that I was one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. I was doing wonderful work that made people happy. I was, you know, I owned all that. That was it. You know, I guess, you know, what I own, when you think about it, is my faith. That's what I own. That's about it. Because I started thinking materially and all those things.
Your faith in yourself.
Life.
Or your
Absolutely.
faith in some...
Faith in the universe, faith in myself, yeah.
That is in the end what you own.
That's
the
it.
Sense of...
That's all I have.
That's exactly right. You can strip all the stuff away, and
right.
And if you have that sense of...
That's huge.
It's as big as it gets. That's what they...
huge.
You know, for the most part...
I've seen mountains move in my life, so I've had just endless gifts, and they've all been things that I have at some point sat and made myself believe were possible.
And you did with the check 4 years earlier, you did what
yes.
with it?
Right. I wrote myself a check when I was up on Mulholland Drive.
Right.
I wrote myself a post-dated check, Thanksgiving 1995, for the sum of $10 million. And again, it wasn't about the money, it was about where you are if you're receiving that kind of money and what you're doing. Because I've examined that all the way along, you know, when all this $20 million man business was happening. You know, I've examined what my motivations are, and the fact is I'm addicted to expressing myself in certain ways, and I have to do it, and I would do it if I was making 20 cents. Yeah. So it's really about that, especially now. I have enough money to live 20 lives, so I can't stop. I'm fascinated by what creates characters, you know, what defines people, what creates them, what puts them together. Everybody's Frankenstein, and they just like, as life goes on, you either lose pieces of yourself, gain other pieces, and it just, that's the fascinating thing about acting. It's like somebody like Andy Kaufman, what is it? And I stood by his gravesite, you know, with his sister, and she said one thing to me that cleared it all up, and that was that Andy was never part of the club, so he created his own club that no one else could be a part of. Because I was fully, you know, prepared to just play out, you know, stand-up comedy in comedy clubs. And
yeah, but there's something within you that constantly pushed the edges of the envelope wherever you were.
Well, or at least took advantage of the opportunities that came around. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, just the courage to jump in. I mean, you know, to do films that are out of your so-called power alley, as they call it, it takes nerve, you know, so I have the nerve, you know, and we'll see if I have the goods, but I have the nerve. I'm just excited, really, about always changing, about crossing back and forth across the river and throwing the hounds off the trail. I love that.
Just when we think we've got you, we know you, you're off on another route.
Absolutely. And if I feel like I've been figured out, boy, look out. I will become something completely different, you know. Maybe I might not want to become something completely different, but express something completely different. I always felt like if the world is going crazy, I'll be calm. And if they're calm, I'll be the one hanging off the chandelier.